remind me, make mistakes, and that was one of them. So I apologize for that. Next item up is bids and proposals. This is an amendment to the agreement with the Granite Rock Company for the Ronan Channel Trail West Branch Yagas Creek Trail Construction Project, number 15 PW 228, and approval of budget amendment in the amount of $185,000. Groom.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and community members. This item is a contract amendment for Granite Rock Construction Company for the Ronan Channel Trail Construction Project. I have a few slides for you, and we'll have, feel free to ask me questions as we go along or at the end. For those who are not familiar with the project, this project is intended to construct about a mile of pedestrian and bicycle pathway, about 12 feet wide. In addition, it will build a 65-foot long pedestrian bridge along Miller Slough. So to point you where the bridge is, it's down here where the Miller Slough connects with West Yagas Branch. And the trail will extend from south of 152, which is Leavesley, down to 6th Street. This project has been in the works for quite some time, so we thought we would provide some background and history on it and a timeline of the activities that took place. The story begins in 2010 when the project was conceived and a grant application was submitted. Not only for this project, but for 2 other trails. In 2011, design, solicitation, and contract award was performed. Drake Haglund and Associates was the designer for this project. Grant application was submitted in 2013. The city filed for CEQA and NEPA clearances in 2014. In August 2017, project design was completed. In September 2017, we advertised for construction bids, and we issued notice to proceed in April 2018. Unfortunately, the project was suspended as soon as it began because a notice of violation was issued by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And I failed to mention at the beginning, I have my staff here with me, Gary Heap, city engineer. Farnak Madavi is the senior engineer for CIP projects, and Neron Tan is our assistant engineer in the engineering division, so they will help me with this presentation. As far as the permits for this project are concerned, as I mentioned, the notice of violation was issued in May, and the main reason for that was we did not notify or the project team did not notify the Fish and Wildlife that work was occurring within the stream. So we immediately suspended all activities, but we started looking into the project documents and background and to determine what permits were actually obtained and completed and what was not completed. And we found out that the CEQA and NEPA were filed and a letter of determination was received from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, but there were 3 specific permits that were overlooked. And this was the streambed alteration agreement. This is from the Fish and Wildlife, the Section 401 permit requirements from the Water Board, and the Habitat Conservation Plan from the Santa Clara Valley Habitat Agency.
So, Groom, I thought the whole idea behind the Habitat Agency was so that we didn't have to deal with Fish and Wildlife anymore.
That may
when
have
it
been
came to the permitting process.
I guess that may have been what caused the confusion among staff back in the day, a few years ago, but that doesn't seem to be the case because these are 2 separate entities, and the Habitat Conservation Plan is not necessarily in lieu of the approval. Section 1600, I believe, is the code, the state code that we have to comply with, while the Habitat Conservation Plan is a county agency approval.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. But let me turn to Councilmember Tucker because again, it was I understand that they're two separate agencies. However, the Habitat Agency, I thought, would have permitting ability because the whole idea behind the creation of the agency was to streamline so you didn't have to go through Fish and Wildlife, both at the state level and at the national level. The one that still kind of hangs people up is the Water Control Board because they were never on board. But I was just, I'm as confused as you guys were.
Well, let me just say that there is a regional permit, but remember in the beginning of the HCP, they left out the fish. So is this something that pertains to fish and water? Because fish was removed. That was one of the biggest issues
That's
in
right.
the beginning.
Fish specifically was removed, but
Right.
the Fish and
So-
Wildlife Agency was on
But
board.
there is a regional permitting process, so it just depends on what he's requesting to permit and if it follows the guidelines of the RPG.
If I may, I think also the issue here from the staff report has to do with the stream bed alteration permit, which is different than a habitat alteration. In other words, it's not the same as
maybe
developing
that's-
some habitat
maybe
that, for
that's a
example,
distinction
species is
then.
in. Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually changing the stream, and that's a different permitting process, and maybe that's partly what the confusion was.
All right. Please continue.
Thank you for that clarification. So immediately, as soon as we found out that there were issues with the project, we acted immediately. We directed our construction management consultant, TRC, and their sub-consultant, Ture Environmental, to pursue all the permits. And we obviously directed the contractor to suspend work and winterize the site for 2018. And in doing so, we were able to obtain the permits. In July 2018, we were granted the Habitat Conservation Plan approval. The stream alteration permit was obtained in September, and the water board approval was obtained in September 2018. So for the complications that we went through, this was in fact a very swift process, and we were able to get the permits. However, because there is work in the stream, we could not pursue construction work between October and April. So that forced that to shut down for the winter and come back this year in April. The total change that we're requesting council to consider is in the amount of $185,000. We broke it out into the different categories, which is included in the staff report. If you have any specific questions, we can delve into those numbers. But in general, these are costs associated with the delay that was incurred in the project. These are material costs, labor costs, as well as subcontractor mobilization and demobilization costs. As you know, council has alternatives. You have the option to approve this amendment, which is our recommendation, but you also have the option not to approve this amendment, but we would like you to consider the following factors. If we do not continue construction, the city will lose the federal grant. This project is funded in part by federal grants, so we are at a risk of losing those funds, and that may put us in a precarious situation for future grants, and we believe that there will be additional costs associated with additional procurement and re-advertisement of the project. Therefore, our recommendation from the staff level is to award this amendment to the contractor. Granite Rock has been very cooperative in this process. They've been responsive, worked with us, and we believe that they're in a better position to continue the work and complete the project this construction season. And we request council to take that into consideration and approve this amendment. I'll take any questions or comments you may have. Thank you.
Okay, council, any questions for staff? Okay, let me go ahead and open it up to the public. Is there anybody from the public that wants to speak on this item? No cards? All right, coming back to council. Any questions? Councilmember Bracco.
Where's the money come from?
This project is funded, the city money comes from the Public Facilities Impact Fund.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Tucker, seconded by Councilmember Tovar, to adopt the resolution of City Council of the City of Gilroy amending the budget for the City of Gilroy fiscal year 2018-2019 and appropriating proposed expenditure amendments. This is a roll call vote.
This is Resolution 2019-06. Marie Blankley. Yes. Dion Bracco. Carol Marks.
Yes.
Fred Tovar.
Yes.
Kat Tucker.
Yes.
Roland Velasco.
Yes, and that motion passes on a 6-0 to 0 vote with Councilmember LaRomanos absent. The next item is
Thank
to
you.
approve an amendment to the contract with the Granite Rock Company in the amount of $185,000, including a 10% contingency amount of the Ronan Channel Trail, West Branch Yagas Creek Trail project, and authorize the city administrator to execute the amendment and associated documents. Councilmember Bracco. Oh, sorry about that. Can we get a motion?
Yeah, you don't need a roll call.
Don't I need a motion for this item B?
Yeah, you need a motion to approve it, right?
Yeah.
We'll let you in there.
So we have a motion by Councilmember
Second.
Tovar, seconded by Councilmember Tucker, to approve the amendment to the contract with Granite Rock Company in the amount of $185,000. Please vote.
Yes.
I'm not, Shauna, I'm not getting anything here.
Acting funny.
Oops.
Says hide vote. Shows,
It's not showing, it's not giving us an option to vote.
Okay, we can do it by voice if you'd like.
Okay?
Marie Blankley.
Yes.
Dion Bracco. Peter LaRomanos. Carol Marks.
Yes.
Fred Tovar.
Yes.
Kat Tucker.
yes.
Roland Velasco.
Yes. I apologize, Shauna, if I did something wrong here.
It's probably not you.
Okay. Amendment to the agreement, next item is the amendment to the agreement with TRC Solutions, Inc. in the amount of $192,319 for construction management services for the Ronan Channel Trail project, PW 15 PW 228, and approval of the budget amendment in the amount of $192,319. Room?
Good evening again, Mayor, council members, and community members. This item is related to the previous item in that they're both for the same project, Ronan Channel Trail construction project. This amendment is for the consultant, the construction management consultant. As I already discussed in the previous item, the consultants helped us with obtaining the permits and expediting the acquisition of those permits, but they will also be helping us with the construction management effort. The only item I want to share with you is the numbers. The history remains the same, but the numbers for this change order are broken out into these different categories, mainly pertaining to permit applications, permit fees, the coordination, extensive coordination with the permitting agencies, state, local agencies, and the hours associated with those are shown on the screen, but they're also in your staff report.
Okay.
If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to respond.
All right, can I get a,
Public comment?
is there anybody from the public that wants to speak on this portion of the item? Seeing no cards, we have a motion by Councilmember Tucker, seconded by Councilmember Tovar, to adopt the resolution of City Council, City of Gilroy, amending the budget for the City of Gilroy for fiscal year 18-19 and appropriating proposed expenditure amendments. And this is a roll call vote, please.
Marie Blankley.
Yes.
Dion Bracco. Carol Marks.
Yes.
Fred Tovar. Kat Tucker.
Yes.
Roland Velasco.
Yes. And then item B is approve the amendment to the agreement with TRC Solutions, Inc. in the amount of $192,319 for construction management services for the Ronan Channel project, extending the term through June 30, 2020, and authorize city administrator to execute the amendment and associated documents. Can I get a motion, please?
I move to approve.
Moved by Councilmember Tucker, seconded by Councilmember Tovar. Shauna, will you please take a roll call vote?
Marie Blankley.
Yes.
Dion Bracco. Carol Marks.
Yes.
Fred Tovar. Kat Tucker.
Yes.
Roland Blasco.
Yes, and that passes unanimously. Sorry, those were 6-0 to 0 votes with Councilmember Lerone Munoz absent. Next item up is the award of a contract amount in the amount of $150,998 to Four Leaf Inc. for construction management services for the Citywide Pavement Maintenance Phase 2 project. Gary.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Let me see here if I can figure this out. Here it is. Evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Gary Heap. I have for you this evening a presentation on the award of the contract for consultant management services for Four Leaf Inc. for our Citywide Pavement Maintenance Phase 2 project. A little bit of background. Starting in March of 2012, City Council awarded design and construction management contract Flowers & Associates, Inc. for a total of $124,953 for Citywide Pavement Maintenance Phase 1 project. In November 2016, Council approved an amendment to Flowers & Associates for contract and design construction management services for pavement maintenance Phase 2 project for a total amount of $245,633. Flowers Associates contract expired in 2018 and was not renewed with a remaining balance of $93,303, which we'll be proposing for use tonight into the Four Leaf contract, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. A little bit of discussion about our construction or consultant selection process. In August of 2014, the City Council approved a pre-qualified list of construction management firms. Our Public Works Engineering Department sent out an RFP in December of this last year to that approved pre-qualified list of firms. We received 3 proposals in December 19th, and those 3 proposals were routed to a committee, and Four Leaf was selected as the most qualified consultant. Looking at the Phase 2 project that will be constructed later on this summer, that Phase 2 project consists of 4 street segments, which include Santa Teresa Boulevard between Day Road and Mantelli, Westwood between 1st and 3rd, Church Street between 1st and Housen, and IOOF between Murray and Forest. We'll also be looking to include 2 alternative bid option streets, which are Sunrise between Santa Teresa and Rancho Hills, and Church Street between 7th and 10th, and depending on how the bids come back, we'll be adding in those streets. Those streets that were being included this year were selected based on our Street Saver program, the PCI or Pavement Condition Index of those streets, the daily traffic those streets carry, the treatment types for those streets, and for this year we're looking at seal program or a microsurfacing program or minor overlays, and also we're looking to spread the wealth around in geographic equity for the street repairs. The construction of this project, this Phase 2 project, was advertised on March 22nd, and we're expecting bids to come back on April 18th. So just for reference, the Phase 1 project, which was completed back in late 2016, included these segments here: Murray between Lincoln and Los Animas, Welburn in 2 segments between Church and Henna, and also between Santa Teresa and Kern, 3rd between Prince Val and Laurel, Miller between 6th and 1st, and then Prince Val between 8th and 6th. So in terms of the funding source for the contract this evening, we're proposing to use the $93,303, which is the leftover from the Flowers Associates contract. We're asking council to approve a budget amendment from gas tax in the amount of $57,695 for a total of $150,998, which is to fund the Four Leaf proposal. So staff's recommendation is to award a contract in the amount of $150,998 to Four Leaf for construction management services for the Citywide Pavement Maintenance Phase 2 project, and again approve that budget amendment in the amount of $57,695 out of the gas tax fund. And with that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Gary. Just real quickly, explain in very layman's terms the difference between the micro surfacing and there was another one that you discussed here in the staff report.
The seal.
Yes, yeah.
They're basically the same thing. It's a oil surfacing with a sand mixture. So it's a sand oil mix. That's
Okay, but, okay, so go a little deeper than that for me, because if they're basically the same thing, then why not?
I'm going to ask my paving expert to say.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. So the difference between so typically when we say seal program, those are typically slurry seal type 1, type 2. So slurry seals are an emulsion, which basically is small particles of binders that get cut off into small and mixed with water, and then it mixed with the sand or aggregate, and that's how type 1, type 2, type 3 slurries are being laid. Microsurfacing.
So that would be like when you have the street and then you suddenly have the kind of a gray material laid over the top of it.
Grayish brown material.
Yeah.
It's very similar to what when they did on 10 Streets and Alexander, just this summer. So
Okay.
that's the slurry type 2. Microsurfacing is a little bit more advanced. They added rubbers and also polymer just for high traffic areas such as Santa Teresa. It's quicker to dry. It lasts longer. It has a little bit more flexibility than type 2 slurry.
I'm going to assume, though, it's probably more expensive, though.
It is a little bit more expensive, but it's designed for higher traffic, especially when it taken into considerations the traffic closures and stuff. Slurry takes a lot longer to dry. It's an emulsion product versus microsurfacing is a polymer product. It's a lot quicker.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, and then the minus of this part is actual grind overlay. So let's say segment like Westwood from Juniper to 3rd Streets, that was recommended for overlay. It's about 4-inch overlay. And then also IFF Avenue from Moray to Forest, that will also be overlay.
And so that 4 inches of material is being put down?
Yeah, so we're going to be grind down the existing pavement because it has a lot of
Potholes.
we call it, pothole and alligator cracking. That's going to get grind down, and then we put brand new asphalt, 4-inch of new asphalt on the street there.
So do you grind down to the lowest point, taking up all the potholes, and then you kind of you build it back up then?
Yeah, typically. So let's, for example, on Westwood's existing right now, the existing pavement out there is only 3-inch and 3/4. We're actually grinding down a little bit deeper than that just to get to the base because our city standards now, even for local road, is 4 inches. So that will give us a better structural section to take on the load.
Wow, okay, great.
And then in addition to that, even for some sections that's really bad, let's say the base rock were not compacted or sometimes it get a lot of water penetration, we'll go down even deeper to 6-inch. Those are localized dig out just to make sure that the sub base and the base materials get recompacted.
Okay, and then lastly, I'm really glad to hear about Westwood because people are very concerned about that area. And then also IOOF. My only concern with IOOF is, and I appreciate the area that you're doing, when or how do you time that with the school? Because you have a school right there.
That's a great question. So what we're doing is right now is to time the constructions during the summer. And right now, from talking to GUSD, they don't have any plan yet for summer school. But if they do have summer school, we'll be working with the school district to make sure that the timing for the constructions work
Okay,
well.
good, great. Thank you.
The dig outs that you mentioned.
All right, we have Councilmember Bracco.
Gabe, what's the budget for that whole the construction part of it?
We're probably looking, I think we have about 1.1, 1.2 from phase 1. And then the additional, we're taking it from gas tax to make up that difference. So we're looking a little closer to 2 million or so for the estimated for the total project.
And that's for 2 million. That's all we're going to get is those streets.
Yes, the ones identified on the map for now, yes. But we are now receiving Measure B and SB1 that as we continue to make improvements, we have a dedicated source of funding to look at those.
And with this approval tonight, is that it, or you're going to be coming back with more management companies and stuff that you need amendments for?
No, this is, as it relates to this project, this amendment for the construction management is what we have estimated in the scope of work for the duration of this project here.
Thank you.
If I
Councilmember, oh, I'm sorry. Did you have?
add Councilmember Dion Bracco. The project, the construction contract is out to bid. We have an estimate of what that would be, but we don't know exactly how much it's going to cost. So that remains to be seen. This is for the construction management with this one firm for this project alone. And we don't anticipate any change orders or additional amendments because we have a 10% contingency. So, yeah.
But the point is that this is for the construction management services for the citywide project.
Yeah.
The actual construction bid is still out there. That's going to come back to council for review and approval. And if we say yes, then you're going to move forward. If we say no, then we're, okay. Councilmember Blankley.
I already forgot what you called it now. Slurry versus microsurfacing. Yeah, I think my question is going to be directed at you. I'm sorry, when you were talking. Because I've been trying to understand myself how to explain to the public when we repair, how we choose, how we decide which streets we're prioritizing. And my understanding is some streets are in such bad shape that neither of those two things can help. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right, and that's why they remain in their bad, sad shape, is because we can't.
We did quite a few reports a couple years back. This is in 2016, 2017 or so. Typically, what we do is trying to maintain street at a higher PCI. So that, it's a lot of cost saving. Typically, what you're seeing is in the seal program is about 15 cents to 20 cents per square foot or so to maintain, versus, well, it gets like Westwood on the by 3rd Street, that's becoming a grind and overlay. So that's more of $2 to $5, depending on how deep it is, right?
And what's the PCI?
PCI is called,
on Westwood. Just
so right
curiosity.
now, Westwood, let me see here. So Westwood is at 24.
Oh, my God.
Oh, so that's, well, okay, so that's not as bad yet. We have one that's worse. Okay, Prince Valley between 2nd and 3rd. So if that can be, if what you're proposing can be done on Westwood, it could be done, it's just at the same price, but it's not as heavily traveled a street.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, again, just trying to understand for everybody so that they know there is a logic to it all. It's just, yeah, we don't have money to do everything.
I think you're absolutely correct. And a lot of times what I find myself saying is, we're trying to throw what little money we have at the streets that we could save.
Right.
And what we don't want to do is throw good money after bad and put it on something that's already failing. So, Councilmember Tucker.
Right, and so I wanted to follow up there. If I remember correctly, last year when that presentation was given, it's computerized computerized analysis based on the PCI, correct?
That's
and,
correct.
And our whatever, I don't even remember now, was 70, and did we lower it to 65? I can't remember, Gary, but the city policy of whatever the standard is. And then you have a computer program that spits out what streets you need to save before we get that bad.
That's exactly right. So we have the program is being used throughout the Bay Area. It's called Street Saver. It's a payment management program. So it basically an asset management program for our paving. It has the full center line to the road. It divided into different classifications for arterials, collectors, local, and it evaluate based on those weight. And then we have a default setting that most of the Bay Areas are using, and that's how we evaluate our street. With that, it also weighed in the, it has kind of historical cost of the different type of treatment, like overlay versus dig out versus different seal program, and that's how it spit out and know, okay, with the budget that we have, how can we maximize our payment condition index?
Okay, right, thank you.
Councilmember Marks.
So do we have any streets that are beyond saving right now? I see a yes. What streets are they?
I think we do. Unfortunately, I don't have that off the top of memory. We have a map of where the streets are in red. And we can share that with you if you like.
Now, what happens eventually?
Yeah, so to Gary's point too, so the city has been awarded a grant this summer from MTC. It's called a PTAP grant round 20. So what that does is they give us money for a consultant to come in and basically evaluate our street, looking for new PCIs. Typically within 2 to 3 years or so, we need to do this because there are a lot of factors that affect the conditions of the pavement. It could be weather, it could be a lot of traffic pattern changes, a lot of load changes. So with that, this year we're in April, which is the next couple of weeks, we're going to kickstart the meeting with the consultant. So they're going to come in and spend typically about a month to 3 months period to go in every single street in the city and evaluate what the condition is. And as part of that consultant program, they will also generate quite a few scenario report, which basically tell us, you know, if we have a city goal to get to, let's say, PCI 70, how much would that cost in the next 5 years or 10 years? Or this is a current city budget, you know, looking forward in 10 years, what would the payment condition be?
Okay, but I want to make sure I'm clear on this. So what you're describing, is that a separate process than the grant that MTC has given the city in the past, where every 2 years a consultant comes through and does a PCI?
So that's the same program.
It's the same thing?
Exactly. Mhm.
Okay.
I think last year we had it done at the end of 2016, and the report was presented, I believe, in March 2017.
Yeah, okay. So what you're describing is what we've done in the past?
Exactly.
Okay. And the difference then is that now, I guess, they're going to add some scenarios where, you know, if you were to repair this, this is how much it's going to cost.
Right, it'll come back when we'll be presenting that to council in probably January, February next year, once the program or the report is complete. That'll give a number of scenarios about how, you know, if we want to maintain a certain PCI, if we want to maintain the current PCI, that they'll determine with this analysis and how much we need to spend or how much we need to commit in funding for that.
Okay. Okay.
Or if we want to come up with specific projects, individual projects, that we can then put a set aside, look for grant funding or look for other funding sources for those types of projects.
Okay, good, good.
So I guess my question, basically, you know, going back to this, will there ever be any streets that will never be fixed or repaired? And because they have gotten so bad?
That becomes a funding question. If, you know,
Because, I mean, if we're asking for a sales tax vote, and then we have to look at our citizens and say, hey, your street might never be repaired, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse, that does not look good for us at all.
it becomes a question of funding at that point.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, I did have a, just as an aside, if I could ask staff to, through Gabe, actually, maybe you know the answer to this now. The area that runs in front of the old Jeffrey's restaurant to Garlic, what is that called? Garlic World and Garlic Circle or something like that. Who is and there's an interchange right there at 101. Who is responsible for that intersection? Is that a City of Gilroy or is that a Caltrans-ish area?
I believe you're referring to south of the freeway, the south of Monterey.
Well, I think you could get on and off right there. It's the intersection. If you make that left-hand turn, you're heading into Garlic, the RV park or whatever it's called.
The RV, yeah.
Monterey, there you go. Monterey and, yeah. So who's responsible for that area?
We would have to see where the Caltrans maintenance stops and where the city ownership begins.
Okay.
And we can do title search and you know, look at the Caltrans right away.
I was just asked about that, and I said that, you know, we have a report coming to the city on pavement. So I would ask if you guys could just shoot me an email through the city administrator, just letting me know who's responsible for that intersection, and how far does it stretch? Because there's, I think there's a bridge there that goes underneath the bridge. Just who's responsible for what? And then the other part of it is from Monterey Road heading east on Luchesa, then it makes, goes underneath the bridge, makes the right-hand turn towards the scrawl plant. That whole section there, who's responsible for that area? Because on the right-hand side, you have city limits. On the left-hand side, you have county. And so I'm not real clear on who owns what as far as that road is concerned.
Yeah, so I believe Luchesa up to Rossi Lane is what you're referring to. Up to Rossi Lane is city maintained, owned and maintained. Beyond Rossi Lane up to Southside Drive, I'm not absolutely sure. It may be half of the road is maintained by the county and half would be city. We can again do the research and see where that responsibility lies.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm just looking because that, the road from Monterey on Luchesa, as you start to approach the bridge, you have that intersection with Automall, thank you. There's just a ton of potholes, goes underneath the bridge, ton of potholes. Yeah, and so.
We do have a standalone, as Gary was alluding to, we do have a standalone CIP project for the Luchesa road improvements. So that's been funded in the 5-year CIP. It's in the funding schedule for maybe 3 or 4 years out. But one of the reasons that project was put on hold is because of the recycled water project that would be running along that street.
Oh.
So that's my understanding, that we haven't gotten to that project, but it's a standalone project that's funded separately.
Good. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. And if I just get a quick email as to who owns what and stuff, appreciate that. Thank you. That's fine. Anything else from the council? Where are we here? Is there anybody from the public that wants to speak on this item? No cards? Seeing no cards, back to the council for...
I'll make a motion to approve. I can't use the electronics.
We have a motion by Councilmember Tucker. Can I get a second? Second by Councilmember Tovar to adopt the resolution. There we go. Adopt a resolution, City Council of the City of Gilroy amending the budget for the City of Gilroy fiscal year 2018-19 and appropriating proposed expenditure amendments. This is a roll call vote, please.
This is Resolution 2019-08. Marie Blankley.
Yes.
Dion Bracco.
Yes.
Carol Marks.
Yes.
Fred Tovar.
Yes.
Kat Tucker.
Yes.
Roland Blasco.
Yes. And then Part B, and that passes on a 6-0-0 vote with Councilmember Leroy absent. Approve a contract with Four Leaf Inc. in the amount of $137,271 for construction management services for the Citywide Pavement Maintenance Phase 2 project. Establish project contingency of $13,727, 10%, and authorize the city administrator to execute the contract. We have a motion by Councilmember Tucker, seconded by Councilmember Marks. Please vote. And that passes on a 6-0-0 vote with Councilmember Leroy Munoz absent. So, Shauna, why did it work this time and not last time? So, Councilmember, you see what you have to look forward to?